Today, we are tackling a topic that so many of us honestly struggle with, navigating uncomfortable family gatherings and strained family relationships, which everyone can probably relate to. Whether it's tension around the dinner table, difficult conversations, or setting boundaries with loved ones, family dynamics can be complicated and emotionally draining, right? Sam and Brecka from Healing House Therapy and Wellness are here to share how you can set those healthy boundaries, manage that conflict, and protect your peace. That's the ultimate goal, right? In challenging family situations. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yes. Okay. So family relationships, I mean, this is so relatable. I'm really glad we're talking about this. Family relationships can be so complicated. What are some of the most common reasons, would you say, people feel anxious or uncomfortable about family gathering?
Like you said, it's relatable. So where do I end?
Yeah.
Family gatherings can feel like stepping into a time machine that like transports you back to being 15 again, which is not always right.
Right.
One issue that I see that's a common thing to feel anxious about is differences in values and politics. This can create a lot of tension. Like if you ever sat through a dinner conversation with someone that talks about things that go against your core beliefs, you might feel torn about speaking your truth and keeping the peace. We don't want to be that person that Thanksgiving, right?
Right. You want to, so you want to be calm and collected.
Right. Then there's like performance pressure. So people often like get asked questions like, are you seeing anyone special? When do you think you'll settle down? When are you going to start having kids? Even when someone is completely comfortable with their life choices, sometimes getting that concerned head tilt from a family member can really make them question everything. It becomes kind of like an annual performance review where everyone's expected to report on different achievements.
Oh my gosh, I never thought about it that way, but that's very true. You put it that way, that's very true.
Like relationships, career status, home ownership. And in some families, that's kind of more of a competitive thing, right?
Yeah.
So this creates incredible anxiety for people that follow maybe less traditional paths, and even for people that follow more traditional paths. Maybe it's a sensitive topic, right? Like maybe getting the question of, are you going to settle down and have kids? Maybe they've been trying and they have infertility issues, and that's a very sensitive topic for them.
Totally. So
this can be a big thing. And if you're, listening to this now and thinking to yourself, oh no, that's me, I ask those types of questions. Don't panic, like be kind to yourself. It's a natural form of small talk. So the intention most likely isn't that we're trying to make anyone at the table feel anxious or bad about themselves. But the reality is that it's just something to consider when at family gatherings.
Yeah.
I want to talk about family dynamics and the tendency to fall back into childhood roles. The science actually backs this up. Studies show we tend to take on specific roles. Like we've got, somebody might be the caretaker, the peacemaker, the scapegoat, the hero, the clown, the entertainer, right? We all kind of fall into different roles.
Like a full cast of like different roles.
Full cast for sure. And when we go back into our childhood homes or go back and we're around our family of origin, this can bring that out in us. We fall back into those natural patterns and wait with those people. So like for me, I'm kind of a mix of different things, right? So I'm at times
oldest
like
daughter.
I'm also the oldest.
Are you?
Yes.
So responsible one, protector, right? So I find myself falling back into that even mid-30s.
Trying to make everyone happy at dinner.
Exactly, right? Another thing that comes up is unresolved trauma or hurt past interactions. So we see this a lot with our clients because we specialize in trauma. Often family gatherings can be like a place that brings stuff back up to the surface. It can at times feel unsafe. Maybe somebody at the table has issues that really haven't been addressed, where everyone pretends on eggshells and pretends certain things haven't happened.
Yeah.
There's also the idea of like embarrassing story. So that can be very anxiety provoking, thinking of like, okay, this is going to be the 10th time I'm reminded that I peed my pants when I'm 10. Right?
Parents love to tell those stories, don't they?
They do.
The old albums.
Yeah. Old picture albums.
Yeah.
So people often feel guilty about these anxieties, like there's something wrong with them for not enjoying family time. But these feelings, it's important to know they're incredibly common and understandable. So really recognizing them is the first step towards creating healthier boundaries and maybe even more authentic connections with the people.
Okay, that's my next question too. How can someone recognize, because you get so, like when you're in it, sometimes you don't see like is this toxic? Is it not? I'm just feeling uncomfortable. How do you recognize whether they're in a toxic family dynamic versus like a family that has just normal disagreements?
Before I jump into the answer, I think a disclaimer is important here. Like family, just because a family shows concerning patterns doesn't mean they're necessarily toxic, right? So terms like toxic or gaslighting or narcissist, they've become pretty overused in popular culture. It often simplifies like this really complex human dynamic, right? So every family has its unique challenges and strengths, which is why consulting with a therapist or outside person is usually pretty valuable in gaining perspective on a specific situation. There is a level of normalcy, like we said earlier, in feeling anxious and apprehensive about family function. There's a line between like normal family drama and truly toxic dynamics, which isn't always clear.
Yeah. Because you wonder, like, is this normal? Is this not? How much, should I feel nervous? Is a little bit of nervousness okay?
Yeah. So there are some signs to watch for. In healthy family, conflicts come and go. You argue, you get frustrated, but underneath it all, you still feel safe and respected. There's that room for disagree without being punished or having your own opinion. And don't get me wrong, like family can still hurt us, right, or drive us crazy at times.
Yes,
but at the end of the day, yes. But at the end of the day, they're your people and they're going to show up in your toxic dynamics. On the other hand, they leave you feeling constantly drained or like you're walking on eggshells. Biggest red flag is if you notice yourself becoming a different person.
That's a big one. Notice whether you become a different person around your family or friends.
Shrinking yourself, like hiding parts of who you are, or feeling like you're putting on a performance. We all adapt somewhat to different social contexts, right? But completely masking who we are, that can be a significant.
And embarrassed to talk about like your life and who you are and what you're doing. And that makes sense.
So, another thing is to watch what happens after disagreements. Like healthy families find their way back to connect. Even after heated moments, connect. Or in toxic system, conflicts either explode disproportionately or turn into something destructive. Or again, there's the dynamic of just a constantly sweep of the rug and never addressing. A couple big things to watch for is like pay attention to your body, because often our body recognizes problems before our mind will admit them.
Yeah.
So you might notice physical symptoms like a stomach ache or tension headache or anxiety before seeing these people.
Your shoulders are up to your ears.
Yes.
Just super tense.
That's like it's your nervous system responding to a situation that it's perceiving as threatening. Another thing to watch for is like another telling sign is whether growth is allowed. Can people change? Like, are they stuck and locked in at who they were at 15, who they were at 30 or maybe, right? Does the system allow for growth and change support? I think the most important one is to trust your experience. Like if you're consistently feeling worse about yourself, that might be something you don't want to dismiss and just look closely at.
Okay. Oh my gosh, that's all so good. That really breaks it down too. Is it normal? Is it not? And the differences. Okay, let's get into setting those boundaries. If you are feeling like, yes, this is not healthy for me. Many people struggle with setting those boundaries at family gatherings, especially. What are some practical ways to establish and maintain boundaries in these specific situations?
So we do a lot of boundary work. Work's one of our favorite things. And one thing I always love to tell people is that boundaries aren't meant to make us feel warm and fuzzy. They're not like, they don't always feel good. They're really hard. I like to compare it to vegetables. They're not good. I mean, they're good for you, but they don't feel good and they don't taste good. And that's kind of how boundaries are. They're not meant to feel warm and fuzzy. They're meant to protect us.
I never thought about it because usually when you're thinking like, oh, I need to set some boundaries, that's going to immediately make me feel good. It's going to it's comfortable. It's uncomfortable, right? At first.
Right. I mean, it can be uncomfortable for a while. Even just setting the boundary is hard. But then the aftercare and maintaining the boundary, because a lot of times you don't just say a boundary and someone's like, okay, cool, got it. And then the boundary's set, right?
It's maintaining it.
Yeah, you got to remind people. You got to kind of continue to set that. And it's hard. It's uncomfortable. And I think, it can bring up feelings of discomfort. And I always just kind of preface that for people is that don't look for it to feel immediately good. It's not going to feel immediately good. It's going to be hard, and it's probably going to continue to be hard. But I think there are some tools that really help for when you're wanting to set those boundaries.
Okay.
especially with a family gathering, I think one of the first ones is to prepare, right? If we're walking into a situation and we're not knowing what our boundaries are, that's going to be 10 times harder, right? Because when we're triggered, we're going to fight or flight, and our brains aren't going to be comprehending all the things that we need to be doing or should be doing. And so I like to have people, like in my sessions, when a client is really triggered by a family, we'll spend like 3 or 4 sessions before an upcoming family event and talk about it and prepare for it. So one of the big things is talking about, well, what are those comments that set you off? Like, what are those things that make you feel uncomfortable based on past let's set
Get the specifics.
Yeah, get the specifics of what it is instead of getting caught off guard and then kind of freezing. I also like to practice like phrases like, I appreciate your concern, but I'm not looking for advice on that right now. Or I'd rather not discuss politics today. Tell me about your car instead. So I think even, having phrases, practicing them, and obviously every phrase is going to be different for every person. You want something that's going to feel natural and comfortable, and that feels safe for you, right? Like if you're not ready to start saying like, no, say something a little bit easier, right? That kind of gets the message across, but helps you build up to maybe some bigger boundaries. So having those phrases, and then I love having like timeout strategy. Like if you need an exit strategy, let's come up with one, right? Do you need to say you have to help with the kids, or do you need to go to the bathroom, or is work calling you, or something that if in that moment, like again, fight or flight is happening, you're freezing, you're not knowing what to do or say.
And it's heated.
Right. Have an exit strategy, have a plan, and then I think walk away, ground yourself, call somebody that you need to for support, and you can come back to that and use those phrases that you've practiced. So those are the 3 things. Prepare, know your limits before you arrive, practice some phrases, and have like a timeout strategy. And I think start small. You don't have to start with like the biggest boundary, right? Especially if you're not used to boundaries or you've never set one with this person before. Pick one thing or something small, and let's like not overwhelm your system. Let's just start small.
Yeah. It's so good to talk about this because I think people listening might go, oh, this is actually a normal, like this happens. I'm not alone in this, because we're often not at other families, parties and gatherings, and we're in our own head with our families, and we don't realize that like, is this like, am I so alone in this and feeling so awful after I am interacting with my family? So I like that. Be specific too. What bothers you? Yeah. I really like that, because then that takes away the anxiety of like, what's going to happen? Like what actually does bother you? What do people say? That was so good. Okay. How do you handle unsolicited advice or judgment from a family member without feeling like guilty or defensive when we are, we have feelings and we don't want to feel bad about getting that advice or judgment from family members without those feelings?
Okay. I don't know if you or any read Let Them, or
Mel Robbins.
Yes.
Absolutely. She's like my favorite. I love Mel. Mel, if you're listening, we love you.
Shout out to Mel.
Shout out to Mel. Let Them is an amazing theory.
Yes. So I love the concept of it's just kind of like be unbothered. And I really like the idea of attachment, others, the opinions other people have on you.
Yeah.
I think honestly that's one of the biggest gifts that you can give yourself, is to be so unbothered by what people think about you and focus more on that like internal validation, so that when people say something to you, yes, is it upsetting, right? If somebody calls you a name or says something to you, is it going to hurt your feelings? Yeah, probably, because we're human, right? But do we have to like internalize that and believe that their opinion more than ours? No, right? I always like to give the example that not everybody likes oranges, right? You can have like the juiciest, best, crisp orange, and it's your favorite fruit, but someone else isn't going to like it, and that's fine. And that doesn't make you have to not oranges.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think when you can finally kind of come to that space where you're unbothered, that it can kind of roll off your back, right? Will it maybe hurt your feelings? Sure. But I think what really matters is not internalizing it and believing it, and kind of just letting those like silly little comments just kind of let them go. Let them be.
Let them. Yeah. I heard someone say once that what other people say or think about you is none of your business. And I was like, that's a hard place to get to, because it can be so hurtful, but it's so freeing in a way where it's like, yeah, whatever it's not my business, and then also let them. That's an amazing way to just, it feels better, right? You just go, let them. Hard to do sometimes, but.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely hard. It's a lot of internal work to get to that spot. But I think truly that's like one of the greatest gifts that like give yourself.
True. Let them. Okay. I think this next one is exiting a tense conversation gracefully without causing a scene. We kind of went over that a little bit. Do we want to talk any more about exiting gracefully?
I can say a few. I think sometimes the wisest in a heated family moment, like the strategic. So we need to, that takes some self-reflection on just looking at like, when is it that I think I might need to disengage? So start by briefly acknowledging to yourself, like maybe this is my limit, right? Like this is my limit. This is what my exit strategy will. When we need to start to disengage from someone, I think helpful be like you're saying, need time and space to process this. This provides that validation with setting that boundary, but maybe make the other person feel so dismissed. Brecka already mentioned a few, but I think like some of the easier ones to lean into, especially in the beginning when maybe these skills aren't so natural for you, is like looking for reasons to step away. I need to go check on the kids, or I promise I'd set the table, or even just saying I need water or have to go to the bathroom. That just gives you some. Sometimes the simplest approaches work best. Physically moving away, a brief expression of care can often soften that. So saying like, I value this relationship too much to continue. We're both frustrated. This frames the departure as protecting the relationship rather than avoiding the issue. And I think that ties into like saying thank you as well. Like I think if somebody feels validated and for their perspective, even if you don't agree with it, right? You don't have to accept or agree with their behavior, but sometimes that's like
right.
I do want to add, I think Sam gave some like specific strategies and exit moves, but I think it's also important to recognize like what's happening internally, right? Like setting boundaries, again, is one of those things where being uncomfortable. And I think a lot of people are afraid of like declaring war, right? And it doesn't have to be this big, like, I don't know, I'm just picturing like boundary, like this word of just like this big force, barbed wire, right? Like it doesn't have to be like that. Like a lot of times we're setting boundaries and people aren't being like, oh, that's a boundary in my head, right? Like it can be done pretty naturally, that it just seems like an effortless kind of conversation.
Yeah.
And also I think there's a skill to be learned in letting yourself be uncomfortable with other people, right? Because it's going to happen when you're telling somebody no, or taking something away that they want, or changing a dynamic, right? That's going to protect you. Like, yeah, some people are going to be great with that and not even care, not even faze them, and will be surprised. Other people are going to be resistant, right? And kind of call you out on it. Like, why are you walking away? Like I had somebody tell me one time that like I tried to do it with my sister when I was younger, and she would follow me room to room to room, right?
Ooh.
And just like not let it go.
Yeah.
And like that happens. And so I think it's just being to a place, again, I think it kind of falls into the let them concept of let them be mad. Let them be disappointed. Let them be upset, right? And I think that will help give you courage that they're allowed to have these feelings, and I don't have to manage and control them for them, and let them have their feelings, and I'm going to do what's best for me.
Yeah, I fall into that category. I don't know if it's like oldest child syndrome, but I'm just like, if I feel like someone's uncomfortable, I'm going to quickly say something, or like I'm going to make sure everybody's, and I that's something I think
it's hard.
A lot of us, can easily fall into. Okay, if we're talking about like moving into self-care strategies, before, during, after, like maybe that stressful family event, is there anything we can do that you can give us some advice on that?
Self-care is another topic that we talk so much with. It's crucial when dealing with stressful events, but as we all know, self-care is something we talk about, but none of us do enough, right?
Yeah.
It's simple in theory, but it's challenging to implement life.
Sure.
So we got to remember the concept of like self-care isn't just bubble baths and spa days. All, recommend if after a stressful event that works for you. Please
head to the
right?
spa, people.
Head to the spa,
Get a massage.
But really self-care, if we take a step back from some of those simpler ideas of self-care, if we step back, learning to say no, prioritizing, taking up space, honoring boundaries. These are all essentials in maintaining our well-being. So before the event, I think it's, if we look at emotional reserve, like a celery that needs charging, it's kind of just like that. Like, I'm notorious for not having a charged phone. But today, knowing I had something important, like needed to fund this bill, needed to make sure that I stayed in contact with Brecka, right? I made sure to charge my phone the night before. So there's this whole concept of like preparation. If you know to a stressful family situation or just some stressful event in general, you want to do some preparation. You want to do things that are going to recharge your cup before heading into that. Part of this also is like being intentional with your scheduling. You're not going to want to schedule the dentist the day before the day of a stressful event, right? So it's just like being very intentional about what our schedule looks like, what our self-care looks like before. We want to make sure we're getting adequate sleep. Scheduling alone time can be strategic and make a plan with your therapist before. If we're talking during the event, we go grounding is a big thing. So grounding practices might be, typically they're going to be focused on like your senses, right? And so we usually will recommend people bring something that like they can touch, right? Like a small stone or crystal or trinket they put in their pocket, or maybe they put some perfume on their wrist. Like those are going to be grounding types that they can do during these stressful interactions to bring them back into the present moment.
Yeah.
Imagery is also a powerful, like these micro interventions are really cool tools, maintain composure without drawing too much attention. And then after the event, we really think it's important to prioritize rest and recharging, creating space to process, find a safe person to process, like, how did that go? What feelings came up for you during, what went well, what didn't? Allow yourself to feel those things rather than suppress them, which is something that a lot of us struggle with.
Yeah.
We're talking about discomfort. And I think a lot of people struggle with sitting in their feet because they're uncomfortable. So learning that skill set can be valuable. And then, scheduling therapy.
I love therapy. Big proponent.
Us too.
How do you recommend handling situations where you say like a family member is just refusing to respect those boundaries, even after you've like clearly communicated that to them?
Okay, so I'm a visual. So I'm going to create this visual. I'm going to draw, but obviously my best visual of what like boundaries look like. Because I said earlier, very rarely do you just set a boundary and boom, done, it happens.
Yeah.
Right? So if you imagine like an Excel document and you're having rows and columns. Okay, so on your first row, column 1, this is boundary 1, right? This is where you recognize like, hey, I don't like X, Y, or Z, right? Like I don't know. I'm trying to think of something. I don't like when you give my kids bubble gum. Okay. So you tell them, I don't like when you give my kids bubble gum. They do it again. So you go to the next column, same row. I don't like when you give my kids. I don't like when you give my, right? Please don't give my kids bubble gum. You're saying the same boundary over and over again. You have to decide on that first row how many times you're going to let that happen, right?
Ooh, that's crazy to look at that visual. I'm looking at that right now that you're writing, and you see the X after X after X after X. When you see it visually, that's a lot.
So I will actually post this visual. I will put it on our newsletter. I will put it on our Instagram so everybody can get it as well if they're not getting the picture of what I'm saying.
Okay.
But yeah, like how many X's are you going to let there be? Let's just say we're stopping at 4. And I mean, print this off and do it yourself, right? Especially if you have like an upcoming boundary you're wanting to set, like make this visual, right? So same boundary over and over again, not listening. Okay, so now we need to go to the next level of boundary, right? Now we're going up to row 2. So please don't give my kids bubble gum. I know you give them it to your house, so my kids can't come to your house anymore, right?
We attach a consequence to the boundary. That's kind of what's key here.
Okay,
we're
so the
leveling
consequence is they won't be coming to your house anymore.
Right. And it's not out of like not resentment, but it's not like retaliation, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, if you're not going to listen to this simple boundary I'm setting,
Yeah.
there's got to be this next level, right? So my kids can't come to your house anymore. My kids can't come to your house anymore, right? They're still finding ways to do bubble gum. So then they're not listening. How many times are you going to let that happen? Next is, okay, like they're still finding ways. Like you just can't have access to my kids. You can just FaceTime my kids, right? Happens again, happens again, happens again. Now you're at the next one. This is what I like to call the end-all final game of the boundary. Like this is the final boundary. You no longer have access to my children. You cannot talk to my children. You cannot see my children, right? It's cutting off contact. It's limiting that. It doesn't mean it has to last forever, right? It can be however long you need it to be until that other person is willing to adhere to and respect your boundary.
That's good.
But once that thing is filled up, like that's like your visual right there. Like you're done, right? Like you've been flexible, right? You've set multiple boundaries. They're still not listening. What else is it going to take, right? Other than like your mental health and your well-being to get the point across.
It's going to take a toll. I'm looking at that right now. That is so, because I'm a visual learner as well. And you see how many times you've basically said in different ways, I don't want you to give bubble gum to my kids.
Right.
You know, and you've had to say it, what is that, 4 times, many times.
4, 8, I'm not a math person.
She's
4, 8,
not a math
16.
person.
We're at 16 times.
That's a lot. That's going to take a toll on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think this is a system that it's particularly hard to do, where there's like this family always comes first. And I think part of that is like, that's kind of woven into our community and tradition. One thing is like, we can reframe. Family doesn't always have to, maybe it's healthy relationships. If we just, this small shift perspectives allows us to honor connections without sacrificing, right?
That's good.
So this model of like, you no longer have access to my kids, I imagine that people listening now, that pretty active. I can't like that might feel very threatening. I think the idea is like go around,
right?
Like we want to work on these, mend some relationships. We train people how to treat us. And so in the long run, even though it might be, it helps us establish a interacting with each other, not just ourselves, but as well.
Yeah, that's so good. Okay, if we're talking about therapy or professional support, like both of you, how can that help individuals navigate difficult family dynamics when we just like need some help?
So I will just say real quick, Sam and I love TikTok, right? Like we love to get advice on TikTok. Sometimes it gives me insight to talk
Funny.
about. Right? It's it's good. They have good stuff, but I think maybe the difficult fit, not like dogging on it at all, because I love TikTok, but you're getting general information, right? You're not getting very tailored information. Like if you're working with a therapist and you hear that bubblegum theory like that we just talked about, you're going to be able to work and create your own very specific table, right, with your therapist.
Which is important.
You're going to have a cheerleader in your corner, like helping you like where you flex. So just in general, like Brecka, that you coach, it's looking at patterns that sometimes will, right? Like we all have odds. And so a therapist can perspective for someone that doesn't have personal stake in the system. We all have friends, partner, and coworker go to about family, but they may be more biased. So therapy creates that safe space where you can examine some of these dynamics. They use evidence-based tools designed to address these family challenges. And foundation just
feels so good too, not to feel alone. You're not. Sometimes we get in these situations and we feel kind of crazy that we're just like, I'm the only one that deals with this and I don't know how to deal with it. So therapy can be such a great tool to help. Speaking of that, where can our listeners learn more about Healing House Therapy and Wellness and the work that you both do?
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is Healing House Therapy. Our website is www.housetherapywellness.com. And number is 801-477-0127. Email us at info@hh therapy.
She's got all of it. Look at that.
That's why I pointed to her.
That was
this was her question.
I would have to read through it. I don't have that stuff memorized.
You guys are a good team. That was
amazing. We balance
amazing.
each other very well.
We do. Yeah.
Please reach out if you think we.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I know this was such a great listen for our listeners, for me as well. I learned so much. This was wonderful. Thank you for the advice. Reach out to Brecka and Sam. I mean, what have you got to lose? You can always get some help, right? Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you
for being here. And thank you for listening to another episode of Fresh Off the Set. Please rate, review, and subscribe, and we will see you next week. Congrats, you made it to the end. If you want to continue to freshen up your day, you can watch us on Fresh Living every weekday on CBS Channel 2 in Utah at 1 o'clock. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel, KUTV Fresh Living, and follow us on social media. We will see you next week.